Let's wrap this chapter up by solving one last problem. The problem's called a tough exam. Two students, Akash and Anjali, appear in an exam. And it's a very difficult exam and very few people pass this exam. The probability that Akash will pass is only 5% and that Anjali will pass is only 10%. That's how hard this exam is. And the probability that both will pass is just 2%. This is what's given and this is what we need to find. We need to find the probability that both of them fail the exam. This means that both of them together fail the exam. And we need to find the probability that at least one of them fails the exam. And we also need to find the probability that only one of them passes the exam. Now we have seen a variety of formulae throughout the chapter, but for this problem, I encourage you to use your visualization skills. Pause the video, try this out. Okay, let's do this together. So let's solve this using the intuitive approach. We're given that the probability that Akash will pass is 5% and that Anjali will pass is 10%. Let's put that on the map. This is our sample space and let's say this is Akash, this is Anjali, this is 5% and this is 10%. The blue region is 5%, the green region is 10%. We're also given that the probability that both will pass is just 2%. Both will pass together, which means we're giving the intersection as 2%. Now, what can we say about the pure blue region? What can we say about this region? Well, this is the probability that only Akash will pass. And you can see that that's 5 minus 2, that's actually 3%. And the same logic goes for Anjali. The probability that only Anjali will pass is going to be 8%. That's 10 minus 2. And these three regions are mutually exclusive. 3% and then 2% and then 8%. If you add all three of them, 3 plus 2, 5 plus 8 is 13%. What's this probability? Well, this is the probability that either of them passes. That either Akash or Anjali or both pass the exam. Well, this is the probability that Akash union Anjali passes the exam. And if blue or green region together make up 13%, what's the rest of it? Well, that's 100 minus 13, that's 87%. And in just a few seconds and using almost no formula at all, we have found all probabilities that we need. Let's list them down. We have the probability that Akash passes, that's 5%, that's given. Probability that Anjali passes, that's 10%, that's also given. Probability that both pass, that's 2%, and that's also given. What else do we have? We have the probability that only Akash passes, that's 3%, this is where it is. The probability that only Anjali passes, that's 8%, this is where it is. So if you add both of them up, you'll get the probability of exactly one of them passing. Exactly one of them means either it's only Akash or it's only Anjali. So that's 3 plus 8, that's 11%. That's the pure blue plus pure green region. And if you add the mixed region, if you add the overlap, you'll get the probability of at least one of them passing. That's Akash union Anjali. That's going to be 3, 2 and 8. That's 13%. What else can we figure out? Well, we can figure out the probability of both of them failing. If we are outside the blue or green region, we are sure that both of them have failed. And that's the gray region. So the probability of both of them failing is 87%. What else can we figure out? We can figure out the probability of at least one of them failing. Well, at least one of them failing means we are outside this 2% region. This is the region where both of them pass, and if we're outside this, we're sure that at least one of them has failed. And what's outside 2%? The remaining 98%. So at least one of them failing is 98%. We forgot to even look at the questions. Let's see if we have missed anything. Find the probability that both of them fail the exam. Well, that's 87%. The probability that at least one of them fail the exam. Well, that's 98%. And the probability that only one of them pass the exam. Well, that's 11%. So we have basically figured all three of them. Now here's a quick note as we wrap up the chapter. In almost every video, I've tried to give you a visualization of what's happening, an intuition of what's going on. While you solve similar problems from Khan Academy, I highly recommend that you develop this skill as well. All the best.